Hey, just gonna stop here and say if you're just here for the art, skip to this time code. I will not be offended if you mute me.
I wanna be the very worst, like no one ever was. To draw them is my real test, to ruin them is my cause. I will travel across the net, searching far and wide. Teach Poormon to understand the power that's inside. Poormon, gotta draw him. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Poormon, oh, you're my best friend. In a world we must contend with. Poormon, gotta draw him. A heart so true. Our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you. Poormon, gotta draw him all. Gotta draw him all. Yeah!
Every artist at some point in their career has thought to themselves, you know what? I want to draw all the Pokemon. Maybe some people just say they're going to do the first 151. Maybe some actually want to do every generation. But let's be honest, none of us make it past Squirtle. Except me, boys! Haha, that's right. 6 months ago I thought to myself, yeah, I can draw all the Pokemon. It won't take that long. So here we are, the Poormon Challenge. So a little bit of context. I've always wanted to draw all the Pokemon. When I was in middle school, I wanted to draw partly just so I could draw all the Pokemon really well. For the longest time, I thought I would never get to that skill level. But then, when I finally did get to that level, I realized something. Drawing them all would be really boring. I thought maybe I could do them all in my own style, but I pretty much only draw people, so I have no experience in creature design. But one day I came across something some might call a little cursed. See, back in high school, I sat next to one of my friends in class. We'll call him Nolan Cujo. Now, it was my life's mission to be as major a minor inconvenience to him as possible. And on one such occasion as this, I doodled these beautiful creatures in his notebook. Apparently, I still owned these pages, and I finally realized how I wanted to draw all the Pokemon. I wanted to draw them all as poorly and minimalistically as possible. I wanted to capture the essence of the Pokemon as simply as I could, and with a bit of humor. So now I present to you the Poormon. Okay, so I'll start with a few sketches I made on call with my friends. Back then, I challenged myself to draw all the Pokemon by memory with only 1 minute each. I feel like I came up with a few good ones. Veen is a standout for me.
There's not even a flower, it's just a tree.
But ultimately, it wasn't what I was going for. Instead, I came back to Generation 1 with a little more time. Now, I forgot to record a time-lapse, so I'm just going to pan over them as I talk. I think I started really strongly with the starters, but after that, it was a bit harder to simplify a lot of the designs. I tried to change their body types into simple shapes, like with Charizard, but a lot of early Pokemon designs were already really simplified. Like, look at Voltorb. My friends made a tier list of the Poormon, which I'll show later on, and I got a lot of heat for this one. But really, what more can you do? I love Voltorb, but come on! Also, as you can see with the first generation, I didn't keep the heights very consistent. I actually drew them all on separate files, so I had to resize them when I put them all together. But I didn't use a consistent point of reference, so they all just sorta get bigger the farther we go. That's how we end up with Kabuto being twice as big as Bulbasaur. And at the end here, before leaving off, I just want to say that Mewtwo is probably one of my favorite designs. A lot of the Poormon have very bland poses, I would say, which is the point, but Mewtwo really has some motion to it, and that expression is just mwah. I don't know, but I love it. Special shoutouts also to Kangaskhan, whose body I traced from Marowak's. Rhydon is also super cute, and then there's Mr. Mime. He's just some dude. Moving on to Johto. At this point, I learned to use a size reference, so you'll see me using Bulbasaur as that. Halfway through, I also remembered to use a time-lapse. For this generation, I feel I got a lot better at simplifying the Poormon, and my designs got a lot slicker. We got a lot of circles, lines, and various quadrilaterals. Once I got to the Unknown, this was also the point where I realized I wasn't just drawing all the Pokemon. I was drawing all the different forms of the Pokemon. Something I completely forgot in Sinnoh. Speaking of forgetting, that is not Porygon 2. And before I move on, shout out to Slow King and this area right here. Not gonna say what's behind it. Okay, so Generation 3. At this point, I began sketching designs out in my sketchbook before bringing them into Clip Studio Paint. In retrospect, I feel like this effort made a lot of the Porygon begin to resemble their Pokemon counterparts a bit too much. While Hoenn still has some pretty simple designs, by the time we get to Sinnoh, it starts to be more accurate looking. Although this might also be because Pokemon designs start to get more complicated around this time too. With Hoenn though, I feel like the designs start to become a mix of slick and good looking, and unsymmetrical because I stopped caring. I'm looking at you, Metagross and Deoxys. Some of them, like Banette, also feel a bit uninspired to me. For the most part, that's probably also because some of these Pokemon I forgot existed until I had to draw them. This is another issue that will be apparent later on. Although I also started to fall into a bit of a Porygon style, and I noticed myself using similar shapes for them, such as Armaldo and Ursaring. Special shoutouts this generation to Marshtomp and Salamence. Now, before we move on to Sinnoh, I also had a brief try at simplifying the Pokemon even further. I challenged myself to use only 3 strokes and line weight variation to try and represent all the Pokemon. This challenged me to seriously considering the essential parts of each Pokemon. It was also immediately apparent only 3 strokes was not doable for all of them, but I think I did a pretty good job for most of the original 151. However, I was clearly taking this too far and did not go any farther than this. Special shout out though to Weedle. This was done with just line weight, and it's ya boy! We have now reached the region of Sin. Oh. My girlfriend says this generation is one of the strongest, but for me, this is the weakest. My goal with the Porygon was to exaggerate certain features while making the Pokemon as simple as I could. That's partly why I did the 3-stroke challenge, because I was trying to simplify the Pokemon as simply as I could, kinda like how people do extreme caricatures of celebrities that are recognizable yet extremely simple. But here, I started using colors to capture more detail. They still look a little derpy, but for me, they resemble the real thing too much. Special shoutouts this generation go to Torterra, the second Pokemon I named Chimichanga, Honchkrow, and Palkia. Also, of note, Darkrai was the final Pokemon I drew in Nolan's notebook that day, and it's the only design I changed because, oh my god, I was in high school, I swear, don't crucify me. Okay, next.
I'm problematic. He's a problem.
Onward to Unova, and we got another bear, which means another Pentagon. This is the last generation where I sketched the designs physically, which also coincides with the peak of design complexity. I'm just gonna let this one play out because I don't have much to say, except that I forgot Alola existed and just copy and pasted Love Disc and turned it on its side. Special shoutouts to Garbodor, Cryogonal, Axew, and Reshiram. We have made it to Kalos. Right off the bat, I got back into the groove of simplifying and adding small details to make designs funnier. Some of them, like Inkay, are still a bit too detailed, but for the most part, I think I started to capture the Porygon style again. Now that we're in the first 3D generation, Game Freak started experimenting with a million different variations for some Pokemon. And I said I was doing all of them. Just forget that I didn't do any of the gender variations for the last 2 generations. We also got Megas this generation, which, for the most part, I just traced from the original Pokemon. A lot of special shoutouts this generation. My favorites are Quilladin, Braxian, Fletchling, Aromatisse, Goodra, and Mega Tyranitar. and no, I'm not going to attempt pronouncing any of those right. Alright, we're nearing the end now. Alola has some of my favorite Pokemon designs, and I think most of these are my strongest. I could have done Rockruff and Mudsdale a bit better, and I started to drop the ball with the Ultra Beasts, but they're still recognizable, and I wasn't exactly going for quality anyways. Special shoutouts to my boy Rowlet, Wishy Washy School Form, and Komalo, which just actually looks like a good Pokemon design. Finally, we have made it to the latest Pokemon generation, Galar. By this generation, I was honestly just wanting to be done, kind of like Game Freak when they made the game, so a lot of the designs are asymmetric, simple, and with less controlled line strokes. But honestly, I think that really adds to it. Special shoutouts this generation go to the starters, which all have the exact same body type and head doodads, and only change posture, so I copy and pasted them and they look just like themselves, and shoutouts also go to Choodle, Galarian Mr. Mime, Indeedee, and Gigantamax Eternatus. Speaking of, there were also Gigantamax forms this generation, and because I try to keep sizes somewhat consistent, ignore Eternatus, I did these on another file. At this point, it was a lot clearer that I was being lazy, as these all took me under about an hour. I also took the joke from Reshiram's design and did it for like 3 of them, just to save time. Special shout out to Meowth. So there we have it, folks, all the Poormon. In the future, I plan on doing future Pokemon regions, and I've already started on some of the Hisuian Pokemon on my Twitter, which you can follow at CoreVision or follow the link in the description. Overall, I think this was a really fun project, but there are so many Pokemon, and I honestly haven't been following the games much lately that it became less a fun way of drawing my favorite creatures and more like I was just trying to draw this thing I'd never seen before. I think doing this actually helped my drawing ability somewhat. A lot of drawing is learning to break down your subject into simple shapes, which this helped me do a lot. This also fulfilled that dream of mine of drawing all the Pokemon. Of course, I'll probably die before new Pokemon stop coming out, but I can at least finally say, for now, that I've caught them all. Now stay tuned for me drawing all the Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. Check out my Twitter and DeviantArt. Okay, bye.
Every design along the way, with courage I will face. I will draw them every day to claim my rightful place. Come with me, the time is right. There's no better team. Arm in arm, we'll draw each sprite. It's always been our dream. Poormon, gotta draw 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Poormon, oh, you're my best friend. In a world we must contend with. Poormon, gotta draw 'em all. A heart so true, our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you. Poormon, gotta draw 'em all. 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 Poormon, gotta draw 'em all. It's you and me. I know it's my destiny. Poormon, oh, you're my best friend. In a world we must contend with. Poormon, gotta draw 'em all. Heart so true, our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you. Poormon, gotta draw 'em all. Gotta draw 'em all. Poormon.